One of the most difficult things I've ever had to do is make a screencast. So please bear with me, and hopefully I won't bore you too much. I'd like to look at the subject of logic. One of the reasons why we do this screencast is because in this class we want to kind of do it a little bit backwards. What I would like you to do is I'd like you to pre-prepare, go through the screencast, which should be no more than 10 minutes long, if that long. Go through the screencast, then be able to work the homework assignment, which the screencasts are basically over the PowerPoints that you find on the screencast, as well as what you can find in D2L. As you go through this, what I'd like you to do is write down questions, write down things where you're not completely clear, bring those questions or those discrepancies to class with you, and what we'll do is we'll work at those through in class. Okay, this gives us the opportunity then to be able to, gives us the opportunity then to be able to kind of come into class with a set or direction of just helping bring clarity and understanding. The homework assignments that you'll do will not be graded, though they will be checked to make sure that they were completed. During our class period, we will go over every question that was covered in the homework assignments. Some are easy, some are difficult, some will bring clarity, some you can kind of maybe daydream a bit, but overall, I find that it is very, very beneficial to my students to be able to grasp all the concepts of logic. The difficulty with logic is that today's class is necessary for tomorrow's class. Chapter 2, if misunderstood, will give you nightmares in Chapter 4. If you don't understand Chapter 4, we can't do Chapter 5. What I would like is for you to leave the class, every class, not going, I think I might have gotten it, but rather going, I understand what I'm doing. My goal is to help you succeed getting the basic understandings of this thing we call logic. In so doing, we need to define some basic definitions. The study of the evaluation of arguments is what logic is all about. Now, first of all, we have to understand what's an argument. In our culture, we have this preconceived idea of arguments as being whoever screams the loudest, has the reddest face, and spits the most wins. Or who's ever had, after a few beers, whoever screams the loudest, spits the most, and has the reddest face and punches the hardest wins. But you get the idea. Our culture, we see argument as being a conflict, where in logic, argument is not a conflict, it's a clarifier. So the study of the evaluation of argument, we're going to evaluate an argument to determine with that argument whether the technique is good whether the argument is good or the argument is bad. And as a result of that, we'll talk about in a little bit, we'll talk about some of those concepts, some of those ideas. An argument is a group of statements, some of which claim to support others. Okay? So it's a group of statements. And what are they actually doing? They're trying to support a claim or a conclusion. What we could do is, an example in our culture would be for me to say a Toyota is a reliable car. Now I could say that based on the fact that it's a reliable car because my uncle's brother's aunt had one and it was okay. She did all right with it. Or I could look at it and say, in the 70s I had a Celica and I put 375,000 miles on the Celica. My neighbor boy who turned 16, for his 16th birthday, I gave him the title to my Celica. He drove it into his second or third year of college, and then by that time decided to get a new car. I have no idea how many miles were on that car when he got rid of it. But you get the concept. And so then in the 80s, I had a Camry, and I put several 100,000 miles on my Camry. Then I had other cars, and I did this, I did that. And I recently went back and bought a Toyota Tacoma four-wheel drive. And so now I have this Tacoma. So the reason I would say, why did I buy a Tacoma in the 2010s was because of the luck I had, or the efficiency and the reliability that I experienced in the 70s and the 80s when I had owned previous Toyotas. Okay, so keeping that in mind, we look at that. So we could say it's a strong argument, and those arguments, those groups of statements that I've just given you, those groups of statements help to support the claim that Toyota is a reliable car. Okay, excuse me. A statement, which is in logic what we begin to call these propositions, not today, but they're coming soon enough, is a group of words whose meaning is either true or false. Okay, so I have some notes in front of me, so if I look down periodically, you'll understand what I'm doing. So what are some examples of a statement? A statement is Denver is the capital of Colorado. Okay. Is it a true statement? Yes. Our Capitol building's downtown Denver. We light it up at Christmas time. On 420, we all go smoke weed in front of it. Now we don't have to because it's legal. You get the ideas, right? So Denver is the capital of Colorado. That's a true statement. Munich is the capital of Germany. Now that's a statement, not necessarily true. Well, in fact, it's not true at all. It's false. Okay, it is not the capital of Germany. Munich is not. And so we see now that we have two statements. One is true, one is false. But let's look at a third statement. Hillary Clinton will be the next president in 2016. Now, is that a statement? Yes, I have made a statement. Hillary Clinton will be the president in 2016. Okay, now, that is a statement. We don't know if it's true or if it's false. Right now it's neutral. Why is it neutral? It has yet to be proven. So as a result of that, I'm making a statement that's neither true nor false, but I'm making it based on something, okay? Because it's a great illustration, that's why I used it. But you get the concept. Another statement, there is a God. Is that a statement? Well, the answer to that question is yes, it's a statement. Okay? There is a God. Now, it's not a provable statement, at least in the minds of many, many people in our world today, especially in the minds of scientists. I'm not going to say whether it's provable or not at this point. We're not talking about God, we're talking about logic. But we're talking about a statement that can't be proven, but it's still a statement. Okay? It's still either true or false, though we can't tell you whether it's true or it's false. Okay? Excuse me. A statement is in opposition to a question. How many ducks are on the pond? It's not a statement, it's a question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, there's 10. 10 ducks are on the pond is a statement. How many ducks are on the pond is not a statement. So keeping these things in mind, they're sometimes very, very clear. Then we have the statement disguised as a question. I'm driving down the road with my friend and he says to me, don't you think it would be a good idea to turn left here? Okay, so what has my friend just done? Using a question, he's made a statement. His statement is, turn left. But he put it in the form of a question so as to disguise it, yet it's still a statement. So one of the things that we do is we look at groups of words and we determine the meaning of them as whether true or false, or we determine them as being a statement or a question. Okay? There are two types of statements that are used in an argument. The first is what we're going to call our premise. The second will be a conclusion. A premise is a statement that is being used to prove a conclusion. Okay? A conclusion is a statement that an argument claims to prove. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to look at an example of what we're talking about. So an example of this would be global warming. We are undergoing global warming. That would be my conclusion. Okay, so if I'm going to provide you with, as we saw on the last slide, a statement that's used to prove my conclusion, that's the premise, is a statement used to prove the conclusion. If my conclusion is we are undergoing global warming, my statement would be something to the effect of the average temperature in Colorado has risen X degrees over the last 10 years. Okay, so when we look at that, we can say, okay, because we've seen a temperature rise over the last 10 years of X degrees, therefore we know that global warming is in existence. I could also go the other way to say global warming, we are undergoing global warming, but I could use a premise to try and prove that false. My premise would be, there are 2 ships frozen in the Antarctica as of right now, down by the South Pole, and an American icebreaker is on its way to get them out. Therefore, we are not undergoing global warming. So you get the concept. So what happens is, the first skill of logic, how do I look at an argument and break it down into its premise and its conclusion? How do I know what's the conclusion? And how do I know what's the premise? Okay, so we're going to look at this in section 1.1, the exercises, which we'll be doing shortly. Okay, or you'll be doing shortly. We'll be doing them in class. The first thing when analyzing something is we look at the different parts, so we're going to break it down. Okay, so a factual claim is a claim that the statement is true or false. Okay, so a factual claim claims that the statement is either true or false. Okay, so there's some types of factual claims, and they're either a true or false claim. Okay, so what is the relevance of factual claims in 21st century America? I think it's relevant when we talk about political campaigns. How many claims made in a political advertisement are factual? Okay, it's very relevant that we have factual claims. How many claims made by the news media in any given news report are factual? Okay, these are the kinds of questions that we have to ask. The other are, what are some examples? So I've given you some. What's an example as a factual claim as opposed to a non-factual claim? The argument over whether President Obama has a birth certificate. This would be an example. I have to have facts or I don't. The argument that somebody's walking down the street, you're talking to a friend, somebody walks out into the street, almost because it doesn't look both ways, almost gets hit by a car, and your friend says, do you know that 62% of pedestrians almost get hit by cars every year? Okay, it's a non-factual claim. Where did it come? They pulled it out of his wazoo on the spot, right? So we understand that we all make non-factual claims. Professors, preachers, teachers, politicians stand up and give statistics all the time. They're about as factual as the fact that, I'm a female, right? It's a non-factual claim, right? I can guarantee that. But you get the concept. And so we look at this. So the relevance of that. And so what we want to do is we want to begin to look at claims. And so what we're going to come up with is this term called an inferential claim. And that's the claim that one group of statements being true provides evidence for accepting another statement as true. So as we go through this, when we talk about them, we're going to see some truths and some non-truths. Right? And as we go through that, those are the things to keep in mind. All right. So finding premises and conclusions. One of the things that we're going to look at, I want to kind of jump ahead, we'll talk about other things in class, are indicator words. Indicator words are groups of words that are generally used to indicate either a premise or a conclusion. Now I'm looking at the textbook, and on page 3 of the textbook you're going to find conclusion indicators. These conclusion indicators are words such as this. Okay, you're also going to find premise indicators on page 3, which are words such as this. Okay, and then as a result of that, you're going to find the word and. And is generally used to join 2 statements, either 2 premises or 2 conclusions. Okay, and so keeping that in mind as you go through your homework assignment, work on those things, and then we'll come back together, we'll talk about it, and hopefully bring some clarity. Since most of the arguments we look at have more than one premise, but only one conclusion, we're going to find out in most cases and is used most commonly between premises. That helps us determine what are our premises and what are our conclusions, which is what you're going to be doing in section 1.1 of homework. I hope this has been helpful. Bring your feedback to class. Let me know. Hey, I'll see you soon.